Briefing for the board meeting. We're going to start each board meeting with a safety briefing. There are several exits in this room, 2 doors to the back of the auditorium or the 2 doors in the front of the auditorium or exits. We would exit on the 16th Street side of the building, and when using the stairs, please remember to use your 3-point touch, 2 feet on the ground and 1 hand on the railing. Fire extinguishers. There's a fire extinguisher near the door of our board committee room, conference room A, just outside the rear auditorium doors. Medical condition. If you have a medical condition, please write it down or let the person next to you know. The AED and first aid kit is on the brick wall to the right of the cafeteria entrance, one on top of the other. Is there anyone in the room that is AED or CPR certified? Okay, we have a couple, okay. In the event of a fire, please do not use the elevators. In the case of an emergency, Kim or a member of OPPD security team will call 911. In the case of a tornado or severe weather, we will be directed to a safe area of the building by security. So thank you very much for that. And now we can have roll call. Mrs. Tracy.
Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Here.
Gay?
Here.
Green?
Here.
Hurley?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Mines?
Here.
Ulrich?
Here.
Agenda item number 3, notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in the Omaha World Herald and outlets, by displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza since June 12, 2015, and by mailing such notice to each of the district's directors on that same date. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the open meetings law is available for inspection in the public meeting book located in this meeting room. Agenda item number 4, approval of the 2015 Comprehensive Financial and Operating Report, the May 14th, 2015 board meeting minutes, and the June 18th, 2015 agenda.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yeah.
Gay? Green?
Yes.
Hurley?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Mines?
Yes.
Ulrich?
Yes.
Motion passed. Agenda item number 5, persons wishing to address the Board of Directors on a particular item are asked to approach the microphone as that agenda item is discussed. Comments will be heard following board discussion of the item and prior to a vote by the board. Persons wishing to address the board on all other matters will have an opportunity before the close of the meeting. Agenda item number 6, resolution number 6063. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that 1, management is hereby authorized and directed to enter into a contract with CB&I for maintenance and modification supplemental labor for OPPD's generating facilities in an estimated aggregate 3-year total amount of $18,448,013 for option 1 fossil and an estimated aggregate 3-year total amount of $65,962 and I think that's wrong in my thing. $95 for option 2 nuclear, subject to review and approval of the final contract documents by the district's general counsel, and 2, the bond of such bidder is hereby approved.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, Ann. I'm going to turn, this is for the maintenance and modification services of OPPD's generating stations. And I want to turn it over to Vice President John Hanson to give some description of the contract and how long it is and what the amount is.
Thank you, Director Barrett. This is, right now, we've got it set up for a 3-year base contract with 5 additional 1-year options. And this is for the maintenance and modification services at all the OPPD generating stations. We had 3 bidders for both options, both fossil and nuclear. We have kind of split it up, although it'll operate under a similar domain that it has in the past. And we had 3 bidders for both options, and then we had an additional 3 bidders for option 1, which was fossil only. And we did have CB&I, Chicago Bridge and Iron, submitted the lowest evaluated bid for the fossil. And then they were the second highest by a close margin on the nuclear bid or evaluated bid. And so this contract would go into effect on July 1st of this year. And we would phase out the other vendor at that point in time as well. And so again, we recommend award of the contract to Chicago Bridge and Iron for a total of $18,000 $18,448,013 for the fossil side, $65,962,095 on the nuclear side. And again, that's for a 3-year base period.
All right. Are there, with that, can you just briefly describe, I think, for the public, why OPPD employees don't do this work?
Essentially, what occurs is you have outages, maintenance outages that require a high degree of labor. And instead of staffing up for that and then having periods where you're not in a maintenance outage and you wouldn't need that staff, we bring in labor, seconded labor to work those outages, those peak times. And then we have a base employee staff, I guess, if you will.
Okay. And are there any options with this contract? Is it 3 years and then it's?
3 years and then 5 additional annual options.
Okay.
So on a yearly basis, we'll come back to the board and make a recommendation, and along with a dollar amount.
And Chicago Bridge and Iron, do they have any, are they familiar with OPPD or Exelon or?
Insofar as, I would say mainly in the nuclear side, because they, and I can let Mr. Cortopassi address that, but they've operated in the Exelon fleet extensively.
Okay.
And I will also add, I didn't mention this earlier, but the way we came up with the dollar figures, we did it on a basically an annual basis, so 1 year. We pressed their estimates, the bidders' estimates, through an outage schedule for 1 year, and basically cranked that through and did the calculations, and that's how we arrived at the estimates.
Okay.
Hey, John, I asked earlier, but I think last chance, nuclear and fossil, you're comfortable with it. I like the relationship with Exelon, and it makes sense on the nuclear side, but you're good with it as far as working with these guys?
Yeah, I think we'll still work together closely with the nuclear, with Fort Calhoun on this contract, and but I think it'll force a greater accountability on both sides of that equation, nuclear and fossil.
Thank you.
Mr. Cortopassi, would you like to comment on the contract?
Yeah, I'll tell you, from our perspective, CB&I supports about 13 refueling outages a year across the Exelon fleet from a nuclear standpoint. So very familiar with the processes, very familiar with the standards. And then it also affords us, should we need to bring in extra resources, extra supervision, we draw on a known source that's out there. And again, that's, quite familiar with the process and a high degree of accountability. We do 2 meetings a year with CB&I, kind of a management review meeting that reviews, their performance both online and in outage. And it's, there's a reason why they support the other 13 sites.
This is a large contract. It's almost 60, just nuclear is almost $66 million. So
Yeah,
it's expensive.
83 million.
83 million total.
It's a lot of
So-
dollars.
I haven't spent that much money in a long time. Okay, are there any other comments from the directors? Any comments from the audience? If not, Mrs. Tracy?
Barrett.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Gay. Yes. Green.
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Mines.
Yes.
Ulrich. Passed. Agenda item number 7, resolution number 6064. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the proposal of Pick Group, Inc. in the amount of $1,735,612 is the best bid received on request for proposal number 4641, installation of North Omaha Station Unit 5 reheater outlet header and HR piping, and is hereby accepted, and the bond of such bidder is hereby approved.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Barrett?
This item is the installation of the North Omaha Station Unit 5 reheater outlet header and hot reheat piping. The purpose is to provide the labor for the removal and replacement of the reheater outlet header and associated tubing in the North Omaha Station Unit 5 steam generator. And I'm going to turn it over to Vice President John Hanson. Round 2.
Thank you again, Director Barrett. As you mentioned, this is for the labor for installation of the components that you mentioned on Unit 5, the reheat outlet header and associated tubing and reheat piping. This will be, is scheduled for a maintenance outage beginning on October 3rd of this year. We did receive 5 bids, all of which were legally and technically responsive. And I will note that we did not take the low bid on this. That was provided by Irwin. And we did have some performance issues with them on an outage at Nebraska City 1 last spring. And so we did assign a risk number to them, which placed them at a slightly higher level than PIC. And so we're recommending award of the contract to PIC Group at just over $1.7 million for this contract.
And that risk was related to having to have more personnel supervise them as far as the
Yeah,
quality of work.
and really, what the risk number, how we generated that was, the Irwin was late on the contract that we had at Nebraska City by a significant amount of days. And so we had to exercise liquidated damages, we had to intervene and try to bring staff on board. We just had several issues. Now to their credit, we have had good work performance by Irwin in the past as well. So, but we felt, in fairness, this was the best way to address it in this contract.
What is a reheater outlet header?
A reheat-
for everyone's-
So, in a boiler, you have the superheat section, which is your initial heat up of the steam, and it goes to the turbine and goes through the high pressure portion of the turbine. After that, instead of being exhausted to the condenser, it goes back to the boiler and is reheated at a lower pressure, but still a high temperature, around 1,000 degrees. And so it goes through a circuit of tubes, and the hot gases pass over those tubes, and eventually it collects in the reheat outlet header and goes back to the turbine. Goes through the intermediate and the low pressure sections of the turbines, and eventually exhausts through the condenser, goes back into the liquid phase and back through the cycle.
What's the life cycle or life expectancy of this reheater?
This is original equipment, so Unit 5 has been in operation since 1968. So on that level, I would say.
Oh, go ahead, Ann.
This will be able to be utilized for when we convert these to gas.
That's
That's
correct,
the big
yes. And that was evaluated as well before we went forward with this.
Hey, John, so, I mean, a lot of these meetings, we buy these parts have been original condition. I mean, when you say original, were they ever like fixed up a little bit along the way, or have they been
Well-
from the 60s or 50s?
We've done repairs, and we have
So you do
noticed.
little things, but then you finally just say,
That's right. We've noted, so as time goes on, the repairs become more frequent, and we've noticed creep damage on this. And those repairs sometimes come at the worst times when you need it for, let's say, peak load in the summertime. And at some point, it makes sense to do the replacement.
you can't just keep putting it off,
That's
basically,
right.
or plus safety-wise. I
That's
assume you don't
correct.
wanna be screwed.
This is that big tube we saw pictures of that we purchased the tube already, right, that was sagging?
That's right. We've
that's
got
the
this at Nebraska City and
Yeah.
similar condition at Nebraska City, but also North Omaha,
Yeah.
yes.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Are there any questions from the public? Not Mrs. Tracy?
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Gay,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Curly, McGuire,
Yes.
Mines.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Motion passed. Agenda item number 8, resolution number 6065. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the engineer's certification of Ronald E. Stolman, P.E. is hereby approved, and management is authorized and directed to negotiate and enter into a contract to install dry sorbent and activated carbon injection equipment for Nebraska City Unit 1, North Omaha Unit 4, and North Omaha Unit 5.
So moved.
Second.
This item is part of, to cut down on pollution at Nebraska City, Unit 1, and it's dry sorbent injection and activated carbon injection equipment installation contract, and I'm gonna turn it over to John Hanson for the third round.
Thank you. Recall that in the generation option board item that we had last summer, that this was a commitment that we made to comply with MATS, Mercury, Air, and Toxic Standard, which went into effect of April this year. We did ask for an extension, and so we have till April of next year. We've gone out and we've procured the equipment to do this, and we have site work in progress as we speak at both Nebraska City and North Omaha. So what we're asking here is that we have the ability to go out and negotiate a contract with a contractor or a vendor to install the equipment and make it ready to operate. And we believe this is in the best interest of OPPD and our customers due to the technologically complex nature of it and comprehensive amount of drawings and construction documents, engineering documents to make it site-ready and operationally ready. And so we believe that it'll enhance communication to have those discussions with the different vendors. It'll eliminate potential errors or assumptions, I guess, if you will, as we go forward with that. So in the end, we recommend that we have the ability to negotiate this contract, and we will come back to the board after it's awarded and report that out.
John, just for the public, what do you think the whole cost of this MATS compliance is?
We have budgeted just over $37 million, and that's our estimate at this time. That's all in cost for the dry sorbent and the activated
And
carbon.
then on the 111D stuff that's going on, we have to do this anyway, right?
That's correct.
This isn't in reaction to that yet. 'cause we
No,
don't
this
know.
is
That could
this is
drag
in
on for-
addition or a precursor of
Yeah,
it, yeah.
lawsuits.
And we were just having that discussion, 111D, evidently that hearing is not gonna be back. We're not gonna get results from that till August as far as what's gonna go on with that, so.
Estimated.
And that's just the beginning of that problem.
Right.
Yeah,
It's already been extended for 2 months, so, yeah. Any other questions from the board?
John, where does this fit in with the potential that a full back end? Is this at the beginning of the compliance phase?
It's really separate from that. At this time, we haven't determined if that's gonna be necessary or not.
And this is all driven by a federal mandate or?
That's correct. The
EPA
MATS
regulations?
standard, yeah, Mercury Air Toxic Standard.
And when this is negotiated, constructed, put in, what is the potential that, percentage-wise, I think it's pretty significant, of what is gonna be reduced by using dry sorbent?
Yeah, I think the dry sorbent has the capacity to reduce up to 40% of SO2. And the ACI, the activated carbon, I'm gonna turn to my experts here and ask Mr. Lee O'Neill to give me the number there.
The mercury removal will be at 95%.
95? Excellent.
All right, thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
John.
John, does this process create any waste that needs to be disposed of? If we're collecting this out of the system, then do we have to dispose of this dry absorbent after it's worked?
It'll become part of the ash product.
I see.
The coal combustion residuals, as it's known also. And so the wrinkle to that is currently we're able to market most of our fly ash. And I believe at this point in time, until we have some technological advances or figure out different ways that we can use this, we will have to landfill most of that ash then.
So we will
So
no
that is-
longer be able to sell the
That's
ash.
correct.
And our landfills are dry landfills, not wet landfills.
That is correct. It's
Yeah,
very
very
different than what
very
you've seen
different
back
than-
east with the
yeah, east.
impoundments, yes.
That thing that was on 60 Minutes.
Yes,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was wet, yeah.
We do not employ that method.
So we don't need a liner or anything like that,
We do use liners
we do.
in our ponds
so that doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
and in our newer ash landfills like Nebraska City too, those are lined, yes.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Better be like-
Thank you, John.
Okay, Any questions from the public?
Great job of not answering.
Mark Welsh, 5611 Howard Street here in Omaha. I guess you raised the issue about the 60-minute story, which I also saw. I guess I'd like to know, where are our ash landfills? How far are they from any water source, any rivers, any streams, because of the flooding risk, and just because if they are wet, they are percolating down unless there's a very thick liner underneath them.
Who would be the best to answer that? John?
So as I mentioned earlier, we do line the ponds. The ponds are different in that they really contain the water that's used to transport the bottom ash, which was the issue back east. And then the bottom ash is decanted out of the water and then put into the landfill. We do have ground well monitoring that we do around the ash landfills. We're required to do that. We're required to report to the NDEQ the results of those. And as I mentioned earlier, with the newer landfill, Nebraska City Unit 2, we do line that, the base of that so that it is segregated.
John, where is it? Where's the landfill?
At North Omaha, it resides to the north and kind of along Pershing Drive there. You can notice it, but it's at a fairly low level, but it continues to grow, not at a real rapid pace. And then at Nebraska City 2, as you come into the plant at Nebraska City Station, Nebraska City 2 is off to your north. And I will note that currently we're capping Phase 1 of Nebraska City Unit 2's landfill, so we're importing dirt and putting over it and essentially capping that. It's for closure, and we'll eventually go to Phase 2 for that, build a new liner and get it ready. Nebraska City 1 is on the south side of the road as you come in. Can't miss it. It's getting,
And were any of those impacted by the 2011 flooding?
no.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Okay, thank you. If no further questions, Ms. Tracy?
Barrett,
Yes.
Kavanaugh. Yes. Gay. Green.
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Mines.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Motion passed. Agenda item number 9, resolution number 6066. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that effective June 18th, 2015, the members of the retirement board specified in the district's retirement plan shall be the persons holding the following positions at the Omaha Public Power District: Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, Division Manager Human Resources, Division Manager Finance, Manager Compensation and Benefits, President of the IBEW Local Number 1483 or his or her designee, President of the IBEW Local Number 763 or his or her designee, Chief Steward IAM and AW Local Lodge Number 31 or his or her designee, and Lawrence Sikor, the retiree representative selected by the Retirement Board upon recommendation of the OPPD President.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Kavanaugh?
Madam Chairman, this basically, a resolution speaks for itself. So we see the list of the 8 folks that would represent the organization on the retirement board, and we recommend their approval.
The retired representative is Larry Caesar.
Caesar, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Larry's not here, is he? I didn't.
Larry retired before you came. Any other questions about this? Comments from the public?
Mountain vote. There's 4 managers.
Ms. Tracy?
Barrett,
Yes.
Kavanaugh. Gay.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Mines.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Motion passed. Agenda item number 10, resolution number 6067. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the appointment of Lisa A. Olson as Vice President, Public Affairs and Assistant Secretary of the District and the compensation and benefits as set forth on the attached exhibits be and are hereby approved effective July 1st, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kavanaugh?
Madam Chairman, President Burke has recommended the promotion of 2 of our employees to be, to assume the responsibilities of Vice President. Lisa Olson is the first we have to vote separately on these procedurally, separate resolutions. He's recommended Lisa Olson and Julie Comstock. He obviously has great confidence and faith in their ability to perform the jobs, and also I do too. The amount of interaction we've had the last couple of years, especially with both of these ladies, has been very good and very helpful to me as a director, and I'm sure they'll do a very good job. These are great jobs, but also with those jobs comes tremendous responsibility. There's been a lot of interest within the organization in applying for these positions, which I think is very healthy and speaks well for the organization. And we feel they'll both do a good job. And again, the first resolution will be to vote on Lisa, and then the second one will be on Julie.
Or as comments, I'll mention that both women have displayed very strong leadership skills throughout their careers here. And I'm very happy to have more people breaking the glass ceiling, more women breaking the glass ceiling. I'd also like to introduce at this time Lisa's husband, Steve, who's here, and Julie's husband, John, and we don't know your son's name.
Price.
And Price. Congratulations to the both of you, all of you, and your families. We're very proud of these women here, strong women. Any comments from any other directors?
Yeah, I just want to say, I've worked more with Lisa than I have with Julie. And it's been just a pleasure just to watch her operate. She's just always on the go, and I think she has great vision. So welcome to the one level up.
If you ever witnessed her in the stakeholder process, you know what made that deal work. Lisa Olson.
Right.
Tim was just a favor.
We can also mention that Lisa came, I think, the week of the flood, or 2 weeks before the flood.
I had nothing to do with that. I'm good, but not that good.
Okay, well, any comments from the public, first of all, on Mrs. Olson's, this one? If not, we'll have a vote.
Without going to the microphone, maybe just applaud in place.
Yeah, sure. We can mention that there's some of our stakeholders that are, and our customers who are applauding her. Yeah. They've met her and related to her quite a bit. Okay, let's have a vote then for the board.
Barrett.
Yes.
Kavanaugh. Yes. Gay. Yes. Green.
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Mines.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Motion passed. Agenda item number 11, resolution number 6068. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the appointment of Julie A. Comstock as Vice President, Customer Service, and Assistant Secretary of the district and the compensation and benefits as set forth on the attached exhibits be and are hereby approved effective July 1st, 2015.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Kavanaugh.
Okay, again, we're happy to have Julie step up. We certainly know she's certainly capable of doing the job, and we look forward to working with her.
Mrs. Comstock has always been my main person to go to whenever I had customer problems or anything like that. You're a great communicator and deal with the public extremely well also. And another strong leader within your whole division, so welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
And one thing, I would say, Director Kavanaugh brought up the importance of these positions. You know, what I've seen in my short time here is very important on how we're relating on both these, and it's only growing. So, but I've had a chance to work with you both and do a great job, but I do think that's important, and also the great employees we had that Tim had to choose from. It had to be a hard decision. So, but anyway,
right.
best of luck. But I would say this is a very important positions going forward because there's a lot of work to be done still. So, as we know from this schedule right here, they just handed it out. But anyway,
Confidence of the
absolutely.
great job.
Yep, so do I.
I might also say that any time I've had an individual briefing or committee briefing from Julie, she's made me smarter, and that's hard to do. So she does a great job.
I have lots of practice with my husband.
We know how to
Couldn't let it go, could you, John?
John, you're gonna have to get back at her later. Any other comments from our directors? The public?
I'll be the public. I'd like to congratulate him too.
We'll have a vote, please.
Barrett.
Yes.
Kavanaugh. Gay. Green.
Yes.
Hurley.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Mines.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have the president's report.
Yes, so, we typically have, and we may change this in the future a little bit, but we've typically gone from our generation all the way down to the customer, and I'll talk a little bit about some items that's been going on in the district. Relative to our generation side, Nebraska City 1 was removed from service on May 11th due to a boiler tube leak in the lower throat area of the furnace. John can give us a description of where that is if we need to do that. But it actually was pretty important. It returned to service on May 16th, and it actually completed a continuous operation run of 287 days. 9+ months, which was the longest duration of a continuous operation since the history of the unit. So very complimentary of the station staff and the maintenance group and John and his team for that as well. And obviously, as you heard today, we're preparing for the new DSI and ACI equipment installation, and that's will be beginning very shortly here. So that's very positive. North Omaha, over the course of the last month, operated incredibly well, even with some of the severe reserve shutdowns due to market demand and pricing, but operated really well. We did have a couple unit outages that occurred there on Unit 2 and Unit 4, but the team did a great job of bringing them back up to speed and available for the market. Work continues on unit number 3. Now that actually may be done and reassembled today. So I think it's due today to be back in service. And so that work has gone incredibly well, and that was a pretty significant maintenance that we had to do here. And I know Mr. Morrison is here in central maintenance, so we'll give him a little applaud. The electricians in central maintenance surpassed 2 years without a recordable injury on May 7th. And the machine shop surpassed 5 years without a dart injury on May 1st. So congratulations to Keith and his team for that. Please pass on my thanks to the team. And obviously, when we have outages, whether it's at Fort Calhoun on a scheduled outage or an emergent outage, central maintenance supported over 6 outages during the month, 21 year to date. So they've been doing significant amount of work across our whole fleet as well. Energy trading for the month, the renewable energy contributed to 19.5% of OPPD's overall retail sales. The wind capacity factor was 45.2%. If you remember what we talked about last month, it was around 50%. So we're getting into that summer time frame. Even though it's not hot like summer yet, we're getting in that summer time frame where we'll see less wind capacity during the summer and the heat of the days. Year to date, renewable energy contributed to 19.6%, and the wind capacity year to date has been 50.7%. And I think at this point in time, there was obviously an article in the World Herald. But there's a story behind the story with our Vice President John Hanson, who actually built our Peregrine Falcon. We always give him a hard time that we think he placed him up there because for many years pigeons and other things starlings were up there. But John, you want to talk a little bit about our Peregrine Falcon project?
And the history.
Yeah. Sure. So back in 2003, my wife had her 40th birthday. She probably wouldn't like me telling you that because you can figure her age out. But we went up to Stillwater, Minnesota, which is on the outskirts of St. Paul and Twin Cities. And like any good power plant engineer or power plant person, you notice the power plants that are in the neighborhood, right? So there was a plant, Allen King Station, that was just down the road, and you start looking at it and kind of wondering what all they got there and how big it is. And so when we got back home from that, I went on their website and looked at the plant and kind of determined the size. And they had a Peregrine Falcon webcam, which I thought was really cool. So I made a phone call to the plant manager there, and we talked about it. And he gave me some insight as to what to do there. So I got back and had our people at the plant build a couple nest boxes. We put one up on the A stack, which is the southernmost, and then one on the top of the turbine building. And then I placed a couple calls to some folks with Fish and Wildlife here and asked them, what do I got to do to get the birds to start coming and not the pigeons and the starlings? And I kind of wanted to get a peregrine and place kind of a seed peregrine, right? They said, no, that's not the way it works. They said, if you build it, they will come. I mean, that was kind of the Field of Dreams pep talk for me. I said, okay, so we built it. And sure enough, nothing came for years, and just last fall, our employees at the plant started to see what they thought was a hawk up there or some kind of raptor, and then they found a feather and went and took that in, and sure enough, it was a peregrine falcon. And so we have 3 young chicks up there, a mom and a dad, and yeah, it's a great thing to see that. And I think it's kind of neat. I mean, I think it's energized the employees up there. They've kind of adopted the family too, so that's a really neat story. So thanks.
I really think this highlights a couple of things. It's really our focus on, and really our social responsibility and our ongoing focus on what's going on in the environment, and we do this all over the place. And this is just another great example, but it also tells you what utility folks do when they're on wedding anniversary vacations, where you always look at power plants and transmission lines and all those kinds of things. Exactly.
And John's also on the board at Fontenelle Forest, and I'm sure you're gonna figure out something to bring that in. Have Fontenelle Forest be a partner up there with you on that.
So back to our generation, a little bit. Fort Calhoun was shut down on April 11th for the start of its 27th refueling outage. The station synced to the grid on June 10th. And is currently in mode 1, which is 100% operation. And so we have been at 100% since June 14th. The duration of the outage was 59 days, a little bit longer than what was originally planned, about 15 days longer than planned or anticipated. But we will be, and the board got a brief debrief at the board committee meeting on Tuesday, and we'll get a deeper debrief in the upcoming months regarding that. There were some very good things that occurred that was scheduled to occur, things like the reactor head placement, the breaker work that we were doing up there on the 4 kV breakers and other related work that was scheduled and gone really well. Safety and contamination and all those kinds of things was very, very strong. And so we'll continue that. We'll talk a little bit about that debrief in the upcoming months. On our T&D side, downtown manholes and vaults inspections have been completed. There was a story on the news as well as the work that we were doing. It's really our part of our ongoing commitment for customer service and reliability. And we partnered with somebody who could do those relative to cameras rather than people getting in and creating a potential safety situation. So we're gathering that information. We're identifying the work that we need to do on that. And so Mo Dogman and his team have done a great job with that. And we've really coordinated with the downtown business community and communicated with them about what we were doing and why we were doing it, and really the intent on that. So it was a very, very positive project. The Elkhorn River Valley Transmission Project, which is a project between Fremont Department of Utilities and Omaha Public Power District, or the City of Fremont and OPPD, is really to build a transmission line between kind of Fort Calhoun Nuclear Station or Blair and Fremont. We are in the stakeholder process there. We essentially are in phase 1, where we have held multiple open houses, met with local leaders. We're beginning with phase 2 meetings. They concluded in May. We'll identify a potential route, and then we'll go back out in phase 3 and meet with the public and the community again and talk about those relative options. That project is going very well. We've gotten great feedback from the consumers that have attended and the community leaders that have participated in that. And this really helps with our reliability up in that area as well, not only for Fremont Municipal Utilities, but also for OPPD as well. On June 4th, we had a storm that moved through, and for most of us in the metro area, it didn't seem to be really a bad storm. It kind of blew through and not a lot of impact. But obviously in our south rural area, we had some microbursts that actually knocked down 13 69 kV structures on the line from Peru to Cooper Nuclear Station. Approximately 550 customers were without service for a couple hours, but it actually is taking a couple weeks to complete. I think we're winding up the completion of that back in service. We were able to switch around, but terrible muddy conditions. And if you know, about after June 4th, we continued to see rain, and we were using bulldozers to pull our trucks through the mud to restore those pole structures. So a lot of great work and by Mo and John Moeller's team and others at the district as well. On the finance side, as you heard briefing on Tuesday, we are now a successful, we have a successful membership with a group called Omani, which is the European Mutual Association for Nuclear Insurance. What you didn't hear is the story of the team that had to go and sell our membership. And so John Thurber and Lisa Huff had to go to essentially present OPPD and the reason why we need to have membership in this. There was also a plant, a couple-day inspection that occurred at the plant. We received one of the highest essentially responses from Omani on our plan. It was very positive. And our team essentially had to fly to their annual meeting to make this presentation. And their luggage got lost. They slept in a hotel for 24 hours, and they had to make the presentation in the same clothes they were traveling with over 48 hours. So that gives you an idea of the dedication of the OPPD folks, and that's why Lisa was still a little bit tired on Tuesday, and I think she just got back this weekend. So great work. This really gives us the ability to reduce our insurance premiums and diversify that, and it's good for all of our customer owners and as well as for our risk management at the plant and for the district. We also housed a Nebraska City 2 participant meeting. So all the participants of Nebraska City 2 met on June 10th to kind of review station performance, also look at some of the capital projects planned, as well as some of the financial and bond information and what's going on in the SPP integrated marketplace. It was a great opportunity for me early on in the process. I knew most of the partners, but some of them have changed names and positions, and it was a great opportunity for me to meet them as well. And so John and Edward's team did a great job of a presentation. And it was a very positive meeting with very little concern or issues by our partners. On the customer side, 2 demand-side management programs were launched in June. The residential high-efficiency heating, ventilating, and air conditioning program, now branded as the HVAC Smart, launched at the beginning of June. And this program offers rebates for the purchase of high-efficiency air conditioners and heat pumps. And for our existing commercial and industrial customers, we included high-efficiency HVAC equipment rebates to our lighting program as well. That's called the Energy Efficiency Partner Program. We're receiving great response from our customers on that. And the board will hear a briefing next month, kind of where we are on the status and the upcoming, that's just for Julie and Lisa to know about, to essentially give a briefing on the upcoming program launch that we have relative to the demand-side management programs. And one of the cooperation things between Mo's team and the customer service team that we have is working very closely with our customers. And so with the College World Series, I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want to jinx this, but obviously we work with Mecca and the College World Series staff and the CWS to make sure that we're in a position to make sure that we have reliable power for TD Ameritrade Stadium during these nationally and internationally publicized events. And so we met with Mecca, both our operating team and our customer team, Steve Fanslaw and our account executives, along with Mo's team. They did a great job, and we put together plan, logistics in case there were an issue, main topics for discussion and dialogue. We actually have a video on that we've shared over the past couple years, but it's a great opportunity of just the things that nobody ever sees, but all the work that goes into those kinds of events. And so we do that for all these publicly and nationally televised events that we do incredibly well. And so great work by our team. And just yesterday, I had the opportunity to attend with Mr. O'Brien and his economic development staff 14 other guests around the country who are really thought leaders in the industry around data centers and information technology and those kinds of things. It was really an opportunity for us to hear some really interesting feedback from customers. I will let you know, it was kind of interesting because I was not on the panel, but the panel talked to 2 of our current customers that have landed in Omaha here, and specifically asked them about their power quality. Have you had any outages or power quality or blips or related issues? And one said, absolutely not. It's been wonderful. It's the best site we've had. The other one said we had one blip, but it was on our side. It wasn't OPPD side. And so whenever that question is asked that directly, you get a little nervous. But I knew the answer, actually, to both of them very well. So great work by our team, but it's an opportunity for us to participate in that ongoing recruitment of businesses in our area. And Tim O'Brien is here as well. And he was named the 2015 Nebraska Economic Developer Association Professional of the Year year in some of the great work that he's done, and some of the notable projects that he's helped with was with the Yahoo project across the state, some of the large data centers on Fidelity and Travelers. He's also been pretty involved with John's team on the Arbor Line placement for the cooperative that's going to put a facility down near Syracuse, and also some of the work that we're doing with the Greater Omaha Partnership on Site Development. So Mr. O'Brien got that Professional Developers of the Year, and that's a great recognition for his work. Just a couple things that you maybe sometimes don't hear about. It's the way our employees really focus around the neighborhoods and the communities that they serve. We had an employee that works at Fort Calhoun, Molly Stewart, who's a senior radiation protection technician. She woke up on May 13th to let her dog out and get ready to go to work, and she saw the neighbor's deck on fire. And so she went and essentially woke the neighbors up, got the neighbors out, and then essentially put out the fire with a garden hose on the side of the house. So, we're in harm's way every single day at work, and we have individuals that do that certainly on their own. So great contribution from Molly, not only at OPPD but in her community, and I just love her quote that was given. She said, I lived next to these neighbors in Herman for 7 years, and they've been very grateful that they were very grateful that I was able to get them up for work that early, but also put out a fire on their deck. So anyway, this was at 4:30 in the morning. So anyway. Yeah,
Average hours for Fort Calhoun.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Just a couple other items real quick. OPPD will be a partner in the NAACP parade that's going to occur on June 27th. It's called Juneteenth, and the event is celebrated across the country and is the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. We've been a partner with them the last couple years, and so if there are any volunteers either in the audience or on the board that want to participate in that, please let Kim Tracy know or let our corporate communication staff know. We'd love to have you part of that, and so we'll have a great representation as we always have. Tim Nissen, who's our division manager of substation operation, was actually selected to participate in Leadership Nebraska, and he's one of 28 Nebraskans selected to participate in this class. It's class number 8, and so Tim has been with the company for 30 years, and it's a great opportunity for him to hear about what's going on throughout the state of Nebraska. And Julie Comstock actually was our last year's graduate as well. And then finally, OPPD will be sponsoring the AAA Home Run Derby, but it's actually just bigger than that. What we have done is kind of worked with the Werner folks and the Omaha Storm Chasers to really find a way where we can do a family fun event to raise money for awareness for OPPD's Energy Assistance Program. So Werner will donate to EAP each time an orange OPPD baseball is hit over the fence. And I think it actually has OPPD on it as well, raising up to $5,000 for the cause. And so we will also be able to auction off an all-star jersey, a signed baseball, both for the Pacific and the International League baseball teams, with all the proceeds going to EAP. We will also be there to do our electric safety related work with our safety trailer and the opportunity to talk about our demand side management and other products that we have. So it's a great opportunity for us. And this will be over a multiple day event, including we'll be promoted through that over the course of the 3 days that the Home Run Derby is here and then the All-Star Game. So it's a great opportunity for us to play a role in that great activity. And with that, that concludes my State of the Utility.
Thank you. As far as board governance, I'd like to mention that the first group of our board policies are complete and will be ready for the public to review, I believe, next Monday, and we're going to have a press release on that. So you can be aware of that. It will be on OPPD Listens?
OPPD.com.
OPPD.com.
And OPPD listens.
And we encourage anyone to review them, and via email, you can give your comments, either in OPPD Listens. If that is all amongst our directors, if there are any, this is now a time for the public to discuss anything.
David Corbin, 1002 North 49th Street. Since you just mentioned the policy, I want to congratulate you for all the time you've been spending on policies and then the opportunity for the public to give input. So those of us who go to the committee meetings know that we cannot participate at that time, and I would ask you in your policy to try to figure out some way that if we attend that we would be able to ask a question maybe after or something so that everyone would know what the question was. But I know there was some concern about putting it out to the public and getting all kinds of feedback. Basically, I think that's a wonderful process, and it's just advice. You can take our advice or not take our advice, but sometimes we may have good advice. I do want to point out that with organizations, there was some discussion about organizations commenting. Just keep in mind that we also have boards and we have a process. And so with the turnaround time, we may not be able to speak as an entire organization. I just want to make sure that people don't think it's one or two individuals, that sometimes we have to wait and we have to have board votes and so on. So we may not be able to, may or may not be able to do that in response to the first policies. And then the final thing is when you put it out to the public, it's a saying that I've used a lot over the years in teaching, none of us is smart as all of us. So we need to use that group process. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street. Well, we've had a continued persistence and strengthening of El Nino out in the Pacific, and the downstream consequence for us was that we had a very wet May, not just around here, but throughout the Great Plains and into the Rockies. And this pattern, once established, tends to persist into the summer season. And the reason is, of course, that it takes energy to evaporate water, and you use that all the time in your generators, but it also works in the Earth's climate system. So if you go into the summer with lots of wet soil and green vegetation, a lot of the heat energy from the sun goes into additional evaporation rather than heating up the air. And so you have more clouds, more chances for precipitation, and cooler temperatures, which of course is not that great for your operating budget during the summer. So that's the bad news. The seasonally, the jet stream has lifted north and weakened, which is expected. So we're now close to the southern edge of the jet stream. Pretty normal, but we're getting toward the end of the June is our worst month for severe weather. And although you did sustain some damage to your system, it looks like we're getting off easy on severe weather, unlike flooding. Now, that's no guarantee, of course, but it does look like we're probably going to fade into the summer with no particular threat that we can pick out of enhanced severe weather. We are going to have a heat wave that is developed in the southwest U.S. that's going to be moving across the southern plains and affect our area next week. Probably will be on the periphery of it. However, it doesn't look like it's going to persist. Once again, this is the consequence of the wet weather we've had and El Nino. There's a tendency in El Nino years for the summer heat waves to be most anomalous in the southeast U.S. And in fact, they're already having a fairly severe one there that hasn't really made the news around here yet. But in the Carolinas, they've been having temperatures getting up to 100 already on a fairly regular basis. And they don't usually see temperatures quite that hot for very long. They will be this year. So unless the Southwest Power Pool has a hook into the Southeast Power Pool where you can send them extra juice, we're not going to be benefiting economically from this one. So that's the way things are looking as far as the best we can do with summer outlook at this point.
Okay, thank you.
My corn and beans love that wet weather, John.
Well, that's good. I hope they continue to enjoy it.
Good morning, John Atkinson, 4751 South 18th Street. A personal note first, over the last 6 months, I've dealt with cancer and other major surgery, and when I've attended meetings, staff and board members here have been quite solicitous, and including folks that I've butted head with most vigorously. And I think that deserves some recognition in itself. That the humanity of that with which we treat each other is very important, especially in difficult times, both personal and social, which is why I mention it. I notice we frequently put a lot of attention on the cost of environmental regulations, and we need to look at all costs and so forth. But it seems like sometimes there's special attention paid to the regulations and their cost rather than the underlying problem that these regulations address. You can either get mad at the EPA or get upset and fix the underlying problem, which is reliance on a dirty fuel, in this case, coal. The other part of cost that's a little more difficult to measure, of course, in the choice of fuels and in coal, the health effects are fairly well documented. That cost is not borne directly through the utility system, the users, earners of coal. That's excluded in large part as an externality from rates. But one thing we've talked about quite a bit here is the ultimate consequence, which is the changes brought about by the greenhouse gas pollution from coal burning, from natural gas burning, and from the extraction of these fuels from the earth. There's a detail, so to speak, that I've become aware of since last I spoke here. You're aware of the UNL report that came out last September called Understanding Global Warming Implications for Climate Change in Nebraska, which is an authoritative, definitive, for the moment, report and explanation on the impact on Nebraska. There's a section that talks about how the drought and heat waves of 2012 will become more typical by mid-century, which is not a pleasant prospect. But we survived 2012. But if that's going to be most of the summers we get, that's a whole different kettle of fish, especially when you realize that we were breaking Dust Bowl records. So the lead author on that, Don Wilhite, I happened to have a conversation with him. And I said, if this is the case, are you guys saying, we're going to be headed for a new Dust Bowl? And he said, oh, yeah, and it's going to be worse than the last one because we haven't, learned the lessons from the last one in a long-term way. There were good reforms that haven't been properly carried through over time, and greenhouse gas pollution continues. And this is usually where I put in my insert a commentary about how great OPPD has done, 30 long-term commitment for 33% of the retail load from renewable energy, which is a wonderful thing, and I love to talk about that out of state. People go, "Where's Nebraska?" And of course LES, trumped you. We're got a good little competition going. They're claiming 48% pretty soon. But those are great things and necessary. But I think if we look back at the last Dust Bowl in the 1930s and look forward to the prospect of a new Dust Bowl, only worse, and whatever comes after that in the 2030s, it's hard to talk about those costs in a concrete way. But everything from children with dust pneumonia and the difficulties of just operations of modern equipment with that dust and the immense dust storms, that's quite a challenge. So I just wanted to put that on your agenda. And appreciate your
thank you.
attention.
Thanks, John.
Syed Ali, 8504 Douglas Street. I just wanted to talk to you about finding out how that green fund is being spent and I like that green fund to be put on, used to shore up critical infrastructure in the community, like our water system, put solar on that. Or I worked on the federal government's study on the impacts of Hurricane Sandy on at-risk communities. And one thing we found was that gas stations had gas, but they couldn't, or banks had money in their cash machines, but they couldn't give out money, or hospitals didn't have enough diesel fuel. You know, even if you have diesel generators, you still need to have a lot of fuel for them. You can't provide the fuel, after a while they run out. So, but if you have solar, you got fuel every day coming to you. So if you put solar on critical infrastructure like disaster relief center or hospital or fire department or police, or that would be a great use of the green fund.
Your timing is good because the board is currently reviewing that, and I was just visiting with Mr. Burke about that this morning, and he was saying we hope to have a recommendation by the end of the year on the green fund.
Super. Thank you.
Any other things? And thank you very much for attending. That's the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you.
Congratulations.